Took place. I was shooting a video on trans-Plutonian beings, and one hazily manifested in the area that we were doing our video, and I wasn't about to stop, so I finished that up, and then we took care of business. I'm not going to go into details of what the exorcism was like, but needless to say, when Thor is involved, it's loud. There's some adult language that comes out, and it can be quite the experience. I don't really remember much of it, to be honest with you, but whenever Thor comes out, there's quite the ruckus. An exorcism with Thor looks like a man is going into a seizure, and so that would be me. Goes into a seizure and rumbles on the ground and violently contorts. And says, I am he who the earth has been given birth to protect it, and may the rumbling of my thunder, be it through rage or laughter, cleanse the earth and scare all thee who would harm thee. Things like that. And then he gets up, stomps around, screams profanities, calls for his hammer, and chases them out. Usually at this time, a lot of saliva and spit, and sometimes even snot has built up, and he mixes this together on his fingers, and he will trace his runes into various parts of the bodies of people who are around watching this happen. And my understanding is that Thor did this through me tonight, and gave practical advice to everyone there. So, man, I really wish I could have got that on video. That would have been quite the YouTube video. So, just working with Thor, the four major runes that actually spell his name are Thuras, Yoruz, Radio, and Salulo. They come out and spell Thurs. His oldest name is Thuraz, which means God who is giant. And if you're going to work with this, one of the ways to do it, to empower whatever you eat or drink, Yoruz is like a cattle sound. It's the great father bull in the oldest of stories. And the sound is very deep and bellowing. So if you're going to use his rune sounds to empower something, it has to come from deep within you. So So it has to bellow out like a bull would bellow. This is my Segerhorn. This I drink out of every time a victory is made. I do this only in private or in... Whew, he's still rolling around in there in my head. Wow. Anytime there's been a great victory, I drink this in the privacy of well, always him, but with only my closest of friends. And then this is my Mjolnir. That's a 10-pound weight at the end of that. I'm going to introduce Thor as our patron. As one of my mightiest patrons and my greatest protector. I am a son of Thor in my Germanic and Icelandic family lineage. Thor came to me when I was very young and has been with me ever since. When I was about 6, I began having dreams that there was a large rabbit standing next to me, and I would reach out to pet it. And as I reached out to pet it, it would bite me. And it was a pretty bad bite. There was blood and torn flesh down to the bone. And I would pull my hand away and I would be absolutely terrified. And then the number 5 would appear. And I kept having this dream for a long, long time. And when I was 11, I finally met a woman who told me that her goddess was Ostara, and Ostara had sent me a message that I was being brought back into the spiritual heritage of my people. And this required an injury, but it was also an initiation, a mark. The initiation would wound me and would show a great portrayal in my upbringing when I was a child, that there would be a great pain that I would suffer. And that the wound would heal me, would establish an area that I could be healed in. And the healing would be the blessing if I would undertake it. Well, during the time that I started to have this dream, my father in the physical began to become very, very violent and would harm my mother. And I would place myself in the middle of that, and I would take the savage beatings that would follow. This was the injury of my childhood. I was being treated in a physical combat sense like a man. He would punch me and hurt me like a man would hurt a man, not like backhand me or spank me like a man would hurt a child. So at the age of 11, Thor came to me and we had a discussion, and in this discussion he made it very clear who he was. It changed my life forever. But he told me that I was a son of his, and that I was meant to be very, very strong, and that I was meant to be very physically formidable, but that I was to be a helpful, kind human being, and that if I could endure, he would teach me. And I agreed, and in that time I got into some very, very good schools for judo, and I actually met a family member of mine who had kind of removed themselves from my immediate family and taught me a form of Germanic wrestling, which is hardcore stuff, brutal in application. And at the age of 13, my father came at my mother for the last time, and I stood there and I fought with a man, and we came to serious blows. And I got my arms around his neck and squoze so tightly that my mom had to rip me off him. I had put him to sleep, and I wasn't going to let go. My mom pulled me off, and that was about the last I ever saw of him. And so I had accomplished protecting my mother, and I had accomplished a warrior initiation early. And much like Thor is the protector of his mother, I was the protector of mine.